Happy Friday, traders. It's 8:01 a.m. Chicago time on the 23rd of April, 2021. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Hopefully, you are all doing well. Pretty busy week this week. Let's hop on over to the Convergent Trading pre-market summary sheet right here in front of you. We see that the market stance is neutral. It's been a pretty quiet overnight session. European markets are slightly off, but in general, the ES has been sitting sideways. U.S. markets have been sitting sideways. The NASDAQ and the Russell both up. The leader today is silver. Silver's up 27 cents, trading at 26.45, even 1% up. Gold closing in on 1,800, up $14, trading at 17.96 and 10 cents, up 0.79%. The laggard today is the DAX, and of course, you can see in the cryptos. Let me move my face here. Cryptos are taking a bit of a hit there. Most of you are aware of the capital gains discussion that's going on in Washington, and not sure if that's what's causing things to in the crypto world to drop, but we certainly had a reaction in the indices and pretty much across the board yesterday. So that's where we stand in terms of, so market stance is neutral so far. It's a mixed bag. The Europeans are weak. The European markets are weak, but overall it's been pretty mixed. So that's where we stand. The overnight volume on the ES currently 174,000 versus the 170,000 shown here. 83.2% inventory is long, very tight range, 14 points, completely balanced profile. And the point of control is 41.36 in the overnight session. So we'll look at that in a minute. So these are the pieces for this morning that are bringing us in. Of course, we get the market PMI this morning. This is pretty important. New home sales is relatively important. Keep an eye out for those scheduled releases. Let's take a look at what I expected yesterday versus what we got. The expectation yesterday, given the rally back to 41.66.67 in the ES, the expectation yesterday is a small pullback into 41.60.61 and a push to 41.75. Now I want to remind you, and I did show you yesterday on the heat map on Edge Pro X, that there's a lot of liquidity there at 41.75 with a big block holding most of that price, expecting that to trade through, but also expecting that the market is likely to move to that liquidity as it often does. So that's the primary scenario of yesterday. Here's what it actually looked like. We opened up, we pushed a lot deeper. We opened actually lower than where I expected. No, we opened around where we were, but it went deeper than I expected. It actually attacked the 41.50 and what looked like a bit of an open drive yesterday. It wasn't quite an open drive. We did not see the volume. We did not see the delta that would tell us that somebody's directionally pushing to the downside. But we did get responsive sellers right off the open that took us right back to yesterday's point of control, which was 52.75, if I recall correctly, before it balanced out at 50 from 41.50 to about 41.56, and then we finally turn upward and we start to make our way, and this looked really good actually in terms of a trade that's likely to work out. Looked very, very solid. for a run to 41.75. The setup was along from the high 50s, 50 something, and we saw it move through prices pretty well. And then, of course, it started to falter a little bit, pulled back, and then we got the news from the Biden administration that the corporate the capital gains tax on the wealthy is going to be increased to 43% or something like that, and the market immediately responded. So we missed that 41.75 fill, and then from here on out, with scenario one being missed a little bit and almost done, it completely dropped. We ended up taking out the prior day's low, which was at 17.75. So we took out this low, but it was on news. So we took out the prior day's high and the prior day's low in what was a trend day up. This is very unusual. The SOC for this move was 41. Let me see. I posted 41.70.75. So up here somewhere is the SOC for this. The SOC means scene of the crime, and it is the last print in the auction before news caused a move away from it. And in general, we tend to revisit this price. So this price remains on our charts, which reminds me I didn't put it on our master levels today. It needs to go on there. 41.70.75 is where the news came out of, and we ended up dropping through. So that's where we stand. The profile yesterday was a multi-distribution profile. It was almost like a trend day profile, but not quite. We did migrate the point of control to the low end of the range, basically reversing the reversal. So we had Wednesday selling, Tuesday selling, Wednesday reversing to the upside, Thursday reversing that to the downside, and today is anyone's guess. It's been a popping back and forth. The delta was not very strong to the sell side yesterday. We finished at negative 75,000 contracts, and so this is kind of an odd kind of setup today that we're coming into. Let's take a look at what we've done since then. So in the overnight session, we opened back up and just kind of walked ourselves to the upper end to the closing swing high, which was around 37, and then fell back through. The Europeans came in right here, and then we pushed through the 37, but since then we've been sitting sideways. The full session mid, full session VWAP are on top of each other, the same as what we saw in yesterday's session. We had the full session VWAP right here, right before the open. Remember the shaded areas right here, that's RTH. The gray or the dark shaded is RTH. The light gray or the lighter gray is the extended trading hours, and you could see that we had the mid and VWAP right on top of each other, and with the overnight point of control just beneath us. Today, what we have is the VWAP and mid right on top of each other, with the overnight point of control just above us, but basically the same configuration. So I think we need to sit back on the open and just see which side dominates right off the get-go. We have a lot of room to the upside. We have a fair amount of several points that we're likely to test to the upside, including 41.50, the morning low here, and the IB low from yesterday. This is an important area to test, 41.50. That's pretty much the line of in the sand. If we get above the 41.50, then we get into this upper distribution, and we're likely to then attack 75 once again. That's how the narrative is set up so far. In terms of the bigger picture, we'll take a look at the composite and see what I mean. It's really back and forth this week. This week has been fought both ways, and we have tested that point of control higher, which is now 41.51. We fell from it, and we're resting at 41.31 now with 41.23 beneath us. It's a bit of a mess. We have an inside week this week. We have a lower high, higher low. The one-time framing up is still intact. And so I'm expecting, my expectation is we are likely to come back to 41.51 test and move into 75. That is the expected mode here. Why? Because the drop was on news. It was not technical. It wasn't under its own power, and that's what I'm looking for. I want to take a pause here because I didn't do this before. It was due to be done last week, and I love to do this just for fun. Just take a moment and tell us where you're located, city, state / province, country. And the idea here is that folks can look around and see who's there near them. The goal has always been for me to get traders together, and this is one way to do it. So if you feel like it, go ahead and type into the YouTube live chat where you're located. We can't use this information in any way. I can't use it in any way. If you want to be connected with someone who's nearby and you can convince the other person, you can type @ and the other person's name for them to get an alert. You can @ them and tell them to send me a contact request at futurestrader71.com /contact, and I'll try to connect both of you. I've done that successfully for I think 2 or maybe 3 people. That's it. Out of about 2,000 people that view the Trader Bite every day between Periscope and YouTube. It's amazing that only 3 people have been matched. But I'm not trying to be a matching service, but it's always important to connect with people in your area. It's a lonely business otherwise. So let's take a quick review while we're here of the order book. Let's take a look at the heat map and see what's above and below. We have an okay offer at the overnight high, just below the overnight high. You can see right in there, you can see that there's a relatively large block there. Relatively large block that's sitting at 41.40 that's likely to trade out. 41.50 is the overnight high. Above there, it's pretty sporadic. You can see there's just size kind of lingering everywhere. And then you get to 65.50, which gets this dark line. And you notice everything else kind of disappeared, and that's because it is adjusting to the larger offer for 377. There's a large block here. I'm expecting 65.50 to be a magnet and to trade out from where we are. I know that's 30 points up, but if we start to rally and take back some of the territory from yesterday, it would not be surprising if it did get up there. Let's reduce the contrast a little bit to bring in a little more color. Underneath, not much to 41.20. 41.20, and it has several large trades in there. Spread out. It's not a contiguous block. It may or may not trade as it stands. If it's a single big block in general, those prices trade out. They cause a collision. But when they're broken up in there, in general, I'm noticing that they don't trade out. It's multiple participants canceling. So the heat map's not giving us much more than that today. Let's move on and look at what's expected for today. Okay, just setting up the chart. Here we are. I'm like a one-man production studio. All right, so again, we are in the lower distribution of yesterday. We have a low volume node right at the overnight high at 41.50. Remember, there's an offer at 40, what was it? 40 quarter. There's a bid at 20 down here. There's a big bid at 20 down here. And we are stuck in the middle. We've tested yesterday's point of control. That's the low of the day. And so it looks to me like we are likely to open in an open auction, attempt to move lower. I'm looking for it to be offered early, and then I'm looking for it to bounce back up. I'm looking for an impulse higher. That's what the little arrow indicates, an impulse higher, push through that 40 quarter liquidity I just showed you on Edge Pro X, and then I'm looking for it to break free. And the next key area to test is this 50 area. 50. So what are we looking for? 40 and 50 on the test on the open. Push the 50 to potentially 56 or so, consolidate. If it has strength, it is likely to push into 65. There's an offer up there, 65. And if we really have super strength, where do we think it's going to go? It's likely to go to 75, to push to 75. The ultimate price to test here, which we unsuccessfully did this week, is 75. So that's scenario one, bullish scenario, given how we are placed and how we got here. This is where we stand. Again, if you want to be connected, let's move this out of the way. If you want to be connected with someone who is in the live chat, just at them and ask them to drop me a note at futurestrader71.com/contact. Secondary scenario, we open up in a chop, push through the 40, squeeze in towards the 41, fail to take it out, impulse down, back into the open, back into the full session VWAP mid, let go of that. And then we start to move back towards 23. We have some size at 20. And then we start our migration towards 41.06. That's a lot of range as well. Maybe I have high hopes for Friday here. But the reason there's a lot of range in my plan here, it's too bad we can't interact because there's a 15-second delay. So I can ask you the question as opposed to answering it myself. And by the way, please don't put your emails in here. A lot of spam bots farm these and will spam the heck out of you. So in any case, or share your Twitter. You can connect over Twitter or something. Share your Twitter link. In any case, the reason I'm looking for range is because we've been consolidating for a week and we have this high volume node on the weekly, which is likely to have a lot of compressed energy in it. It's likely to feed a big move. So this is what I'm going off of. So if you look at the weekly and you put these profiles on top of each other, look at them. You put these profiles on top of each other. There's a lot of volume down here, so I'm expecting quite a few folks to be wrong one way or the other. And so with that, given that, I expect some decent movement off of today's consolidation. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Thanks for participating in our. Where are you? Where's Waldo? Thing that we do here every once in a while. And thanks for listening in. Hopefully you've gained something by listening in. Hopefully you have a plan for the day, and hopefully you've had a good week. Good luck, and I'll catch you soon. Take care.